Most men think value disappears when something dramatic happens, a public failure, a visible rejection, a big mistake, a humiliating moment. People can point to and remember, but value usually drops earlier than that, quietly, in the habits. People feel around you before they ever describe you, in the way you answer, in the way you react, in the way you carry pressure, in the way you treat your own time. That is where the lowering begins, not always in one collapse, often in small repetitions that tell the world, you are not fully settled inside yourself. This is Adrian, early 30s, working life, commute, responsibilities, a decent man by most standards, nothing extreme. He was not reckless, not lazy, not dishonest, not trying to impress anybody too hard. And yet people did not experience him the way he wanted to be experienced. They liked him, but they did not always respect him. They listened, but not with full weight. He spoke, but sometimes his words landed lighter than they should have. It took him a while to see why, because the habits that lower your value rarely feel dangerous while you are doing them. They feel normal, reasonable, harmless, even polite, until one day you realize the way people treat you has been shaped by the behaviors you repeated without noticing. The first habit that quietly lowers a man's value is over-explaining. Adrian used to explain everything: why he was late by 6 minutes, why he had not replied yet, why he chose one option over another, why he could not make an event, why he needed an extra day, why something was not his fault. He thought explanation made him look responsible. In reality, a too much explanation made him look uncertain, because when a man explains excessively, he often sounds like he is asking for emotional permission to exist as he is. A simple statement becomes a defense. A clear boundary becomes a long speech. A minor delay becomes a courtroom argument. And the strange thing is this: the more words he used to prove he was reasonable, the less solid he sounded. Not because explanations are always bad. Sometimes context matters. Sometimes clarity matters. Sometimes responsibility requires detail. But most over-explaining is not clarity. It is anxiety dressed as communication. Adrian noticed it most in ordinary moments. A manager asked, "Can you send that this afternoon?" A calm answer would have been, "Yes, I'll send it by 4." Instead, he gave the whole backstory: what had happened earlier, what had delayed him, what else he was balancing, why it might be closer to 5, why that was not ideal, why he still cared. By the time he finished, the message underneath his answer was no longer competence, it was tension. And people can hear tension, even when your words sound polite. The first habit, then, is this: do not explain your position until it loses its shape. Say what is true, say what is needed, then stop. Too many men talk as if silence will make them look guilty. Usually the opposite is true. Restraint sounds stronger, and a man who can say less without shrinking is usually valued more. The second habit is reacting too quickly. Not every reaction is loud. Some are silent but still visible. A tightened jaw, a changed face, a defensive tone, a rushed reply, a message sent too early, an energy shift. Everyone else can feel, Adrian used to think. He had good self-control because he did not shout. But shouting is not the only way. A man leaks emotion. Sometimes he leaks it through speed, the speed of his reply, the speed of his offense, the speed of his need to correct, defend, or push back, and fast reactions. Tell people something important. They tell people. Your inner state is easy to move. One afternoon, a message landed on his phone. Short, cold, easy to misread. He read it once and felt the whole body respond. Chest tighter, thoughts faster, imagined argument already forming. For a few minutes, the message controlled the room, inside his own head. Nothing had happened yet. No real conversation, no actual conflict, just interpretation. But his nervous system had already obeyed. This is how value gets lowered. Without any public scene, a man becomes too easy to trigger, too easy to shake, too easy to read. Emotional regulation does not mean becoming numb. It means your first feeling does not become your public behavior without your permission. Adrian learned to pause, not as a performance, not to look mysterious, just long enough to let the first wave pass. And that pause changed more than he expected, because people trust men who are not instantly owned by the moment. The second habit then is simple. Stop reacting at the speed of emotion. The man who always answers from impact will keep lowering his weight without understanding why. The third habit that lowers value quietly is constant availability. This one is dangerous because it often looks like kindness. You answer immediately, you rearrange quickly, you make space instantly. You are always reachable, always responsive, always open, always willing to bend first. At first, people appreciate it, then they adjust to it, then they expect it. And once they expect it, what looked generous starts getting treated as basic access. Adrian did this everywhere: friends, family, work, people who respected him, people who barely noticed him. His phone lit up and his attention followed. A last-minute request appeared and his plan moved aside. He told himself he was being dependable, but deep down, a lot of it was fear. Fear of disappointing, fear of seeming difficult, fear of not being needed, fear of what silence might mean. The problem with permanent availability is not just exhaustion, it is signaling. It tells people your time can be entered without much resistance, and whatever can be entered easily is rarely held with full respect. Boundaries do not make you arrogant. They give shape to your presence. They teach people where you begin and where you do not move. If this is landing so far, take a second to like the video, share it with someone who gives too much access too easily, and subscribe if you want more videos on discipline, composure, and self-respect. Now back to the story. One evening, Adrian was halfway through dinner when 3 different conversations began pulling at him. A work chat, a friend asking for a favor, someone else sending vague messages. That clearly wanted attention, not urgency. He looked at his plate, then at the screen, and realized something uncomfortable. He was available to everybody, except himself. That was the turning point. The third habit is this: do not train people to experience you as permanently accessible. A man who cannot protect his time quietly teaches the world that his life has no center. The fourth habit is carrying yourself like your time does not matter. This is bigger than posture alone. It appears in small neglects, rushing everywhere, turning up half prepared, living in disorder, looking like you arrived by accident, speaking as if your plans are optional, treating your body, your clothes, your environment, and your schedule like none of them deserve intention. Adrian was not dirty, not careless in any extreme way, but he was often slightly off, slightly rushed, slightly unprepared, slightly apologetic in the body, shirt not pressed, bag disorganized, sleep neglected, room chaotic, shoulders collapsed. Before the day had even started, nothing severe, just enough to communicate that he was living reactively, and people read that, not always consciously, but they read it. A man's standards speak before his mouth does. How he enters a room, how he sits, how he handles his belongings, how he keeps his word with himself, how he looks after the obvious basics. These things are not vanity, they are evidence. They show whether self-respect has been made practical. Adrian changed this. In unglamorous ways, he prepared the night before, reduced clutter, pressed what needed pressing, left earlier, stood straighter, stopped walking as if he were apologizing for taking up space. Nothing theatrical, just better stewardship. And as those daily standards rose, so did the way people responded to him. Because value is not only heard, it is seen in what you normalize around yourself. The fourth habit, then, is this: do not move through life as if your presence is an afterthought. Care is not superficial. Neglect is not humility. And men who dismiss the basics often wonder why others do the same. The fifth habit that quietly lowers your value is complaining as a lifestyle. Not honest speech, not necessary truth, not asking for advice. When something is genuinely difficult, complaint as identity, complaint as atmosphere, complaint as the default soundtrack behind everyday life. Adrian did not think of himself as a complainer. But when he listened back carefully, he noticed how often he narrated life through irritation. Work was always a mess. People were always disappointing. The system was always broken. The timing was always bad. Something was always unfair. And the more he spoke that way, the lighter he felt in his own eyes. Because complaint without action has a hidden effect. It trains you to sound powerless. Even when you are capable, it teaches others that your attention stays low. One afternoon in the break room, two men were talking about the same difficult situation. One described the facts, made a decision, and moved on. The other one, Adrian back then, kept circling the insult of it, the inconvenience of it, the frustration of it, the unfairness of it. He noticed something painful. The room leaned toward the man who stayed grounded. Not because he was cold, because he sounded sovereign. He sounded like a man whose mind was still his own. This is why constant complaint lowers value. It tells the room that events do not just affect you, they occupy you. And occupied men rarely feel powerful to others. The fifth habit, then, is simple. Do not let grievance become your voice. Speak honestly, act where you can, leave where you must. But do not build an identity around narrating what drains you. Authority fades quickly in a man who keeps rehearsing his own helplessness. The sixth habit changes everything. It is staying in unequal exchanges. For too long, a man knows when something is off, a conversation, where respect is missing, a dynamic, where he is always the one leaning forward, a friendship built on convenience, a work pattern built on underpricing, a connection sustained by pursuit, not reciprocity. He knows, usually earlier, then he admits. But many men stay because leaving feels severe, because walking away feels risky, because they hope patience will eventually produce respect. Adrian did this too. He stayed in rooms where he had to overprove. He kept explaining himself to people committed to misunderstanding. He kept offering effort where the return was indifference. He kept accepting crumbs because he did not want to look difficult, proud, or extreme. But every unequal exchange has a hidden cost. It does not only waste time, it alters self-perception. You begin to negotiate against your own value just to remain included. The moment that changed him was not dramatic, no shouting, no speech, no theatrical exit, just clarity. He was sitting across from someone who wanted access to him, effort from him, patience from him, availability from him, but not equal regard. For the first time, he stopped trying to rescue the imbalance with better behavior. He simply stood up, ended the exchange cleanly, and left. That walk away gave him back more dignity than all his previous explanations combined, because self-respect is often restored, not by being chosen, but by refusing what does not honor you. The sixth habit, then, is this. Do not remain where your value is repeatedly discounted. Some men lose themselves, not because they were rejected once, but because they kept returning to the place that rejected them quietly. And the man who cannot leave, what diminishes him, will continue teaching people how little he expects. When Adrian looked back, he realized something important. None of these habits made him look terrible in isolation. That is what made them dangerous. Each one was small enough to excuse a few extra explanations, a few fast reactions, a little too much availability, a little neglect, a little complaint, a little tolerance for bad exchange. Nothing dramatic, but repeated quietly, they changed the atmosphere around him. People experienced him as less settled, less bounded, less self-respecting, less solid than he actually was. And once he saw that, everything began to change. Not because he learned to perform value, because he stopped leaking it. That is the real point of this video. You do not raise your value through tricks. You protect it through regulation, standards, and boundaries. By saying less, when less is enough, by slowing your reactions, by making access more intentional, by treating your own life as worthy of order, by refusing to speak from constant grievance, by walking away from what repeatedly costs your dignity. That is how presence hardens, quietly, cleanly, without theater. Most men do not need a new personality. They need fewer leaks, fewer habits that hand away their weight without permission, because value is not only what you build, it is also what you stop giving away. The way you speak, the way you respond, the way you protect your time, the way you maintain standards, the way you hold your peace, the way you leave what dishonors you. These things shape presence more than clever words ever will. So if people have been treating you with less respect than you know you should command, do not only ask what they are doing wrong, ask what you have normalized. That made the lowering easier. That question is uncomfortable, but it is powerful, because once a man sees the leak, he can close it. And once he closes enough of them, people experience him differently. Not because he became louder, because he became harder. To reduce it, that is where real weight begins. Let the ideas compound.